Hello Star Wars YouTube fans, thank you for visiting my channel today, Johnny Star Wars. If you are new here today, please hit that subscribe button and the notification bell to stay up to date for future Star Wars content. If you are an existing subscriber, many thanks for subscribing and many thanks for watching today. So I've got a video review for you today of the Star Wars Luke Skywalker Yavin or Yavin ceremony figure. This is Vintage Collection 3 3/4 inch scale figure VC151 from the Vintage Collection. The last time we saw this figure was part of the Black Series, and this particular version has had a few upgrades just to address a few issues the last figure had, which I'll cover a little bit later on. But just a look at the card to start with, the front of the card. So very pleased to see this figure as part of the Vintage Collection. Any sort of figure that comes out on these sort of Star Wars sort of retro vintage style cards, I'm a big fan of. So very pleased to see this version come out. So we've got the Star Wars racetrack on the front of the card there. Couple of things with the cards which I think they could improve if anyone from Hasbro is listening. So we got at the top there the warning thing, which sort of covers up part of that logo, which I think is a shame. I don't know if they could maybe move that over there somewhere and keep that part of the card clean. Also, I'm not a fan of these sort of folded warning instructions in the bottom of the bubbles, but this particular version, they seem to have just folded it up a little bit smaller, so it's not quite as noticeable as some of the other ones I've seen in the past. But again, you know, this is aimed at more of the adult collector. It's meant to be a premium figure, but it's just sort of let down with things like that, so it's a bit of a shame. This version of the figure doesn't come with the ignited lightsaber like the Black Series version did, so that's a slight difference. And then the figure itself has had a few updates, which I'll discuss in just a moment. So I've got to show the back of the card for you. So we've got VC151 at the top right there for you. We've got the Star Wars Vintage Racetrack with the wave that this particular figure comes from. This figure came out a couple of months ago and people were quite excited to see the back of the card as it showed for the first time in the first figures that we was getting from Episode 9 Rise of Skywalker. So at the top there we've got Luke Skywalker Yavin, Knight of Ren, Zori Bliss, Poe Dameron, Rey, the Sith Jet Trooper, Luke Skywalker X-Wing Pilot, Boba Fett, R2-D2 and the Imperial Stormtrooper. Unfortunately, the lower half of the card, as I may have said before, it's just a bit of a mess. It's just all the sort of legal mumbo-jumbo that they have to put on the cards nowadays for different markets. Hasbro have released going forward that in the near future they will be releasing just one style of card which will be for all markets globally. So at the moment I think there's sometimes 2 maybe 3 versions of cards just for different markets, and I think the plan is to have one standard card which is suitable for sale across all markets. So that could lead to more of this sort of type of stuff on the back of the cards. I don't know, we just have to wait and see on that one, but I think that's to sort of address some of the distribution issues that they've had in recent years across different markets. So could be a good thing overall, so we just have to wait and see on that one. So I am excited to see this particular figure released on the Vintage Collection style card. Just a bit disappointed with the image that they've got on the front of this card. Similar to the Han Solo Stormtrooper figure that we got recently, they've gone for a very grainy image of Luke Skywalker. In fact, I think what they've done is they've got out the Betamax version of Star Wars, put it on the PC or press screen print, and hey presto, that's the image you got today. It's not consistent across the range. Other figures, for example the Luke Skywalker X-Wing Pilot, the recent version, that's got a very more high quality image about it. And going back, I mean, I've got a lot of the original vintage cards from back in the day, and sometimes when you compare those to the newer recent releases, the quality of the image on the back of the image of the card is not as good as some of those that were released sort of back in the day. So it just would be nice if they just thought about that a little bit more and was a little bit more consistent across their line of figures. So to talk a little bit more about this particular figure and how it differs from the Black Series version we got previously. So this is a Black Series version. He did come with this black, I call it a sort of sporting blaster, similar to what Princess Leia had. And I think the reason why we got this and not sort of the Han Solo style blaster is that some of the promo images that we got of Luke Skywalker back in the day in this outfit, particularly those, I'll put them up on the screen in a minute, but he come with, you see him with the brown pants, trousers, but with just a black top minus the yellow jacket that you see. So I think that's sort of why you see that particular blaster. We got this ignited lightsaber on the past release, so that is now absent on this vintage collection figure. And he also comes with this lightsaber hilt that's got this little tab on it, so it just fits in on the figure, sort of on his belt. Other main differences I noticed on this one is this particular version, the last one, was often criticised for having arms that were too long or out of proportion to the rest of the body. So just looking at the newer release, they seem to have updated this lower arm here and also changed this hand out. And I think this really was most of the problem, is this hand here is too chunky and slightly oversized for the rest of the figure. So I think that's why it often looked a bit awkward looking. The new figure has got updated face sculpt, and they've gone with the photoreal printing application. So we'll give you a closer look at that if we can. So much improved sculpt on this, particularly the hair. The only thing I would say, just looking at the two a moment ago, is the newer version to me, he does have a more feminine appearance compared to the old one. Just reminds me of sort of, I think it was Toy Story, where Ken doll saying, I'm not an accessory, I'm an action figure. And that's sort of a little bit of how I feel about this one, is he's just looks a little bit like a Ken doll and an accessory and not an action figure. So let me know below what your thoughts are. Overall though, definitely an improvement on the last one, but I don't know, he just looks a little bit feminine to me, so maybe that could be down to the sort of paint application. I don't know, so let me know in the comments what you think about that one. So the 6-inch version Hasbro released of this particular figure is based on the comic version of Luke Skywalker. So this is Skywalker Strikes Star Wars comic. I don't normally read a lot of Star Wars comics, but I picked this up a year or two ago and read it on holiday, and I was quite interested by the story on this one. You know, like we got the Rogue One film, which was sort of a bit of a filler film. I would have liked to have seen this back in the day released as sort of a filler film. It's quite interesting read. It sort of shows a meeting of Luke and Vader prior to that of the events in The Empire Strikes Back, where Vader becomes aware that Luke Skywalker is his son. Also in this comic it shows an interaction between Jabba the Hutt and Darth Vader. So just a couple of pages there. So I thought that was quite an interesting sort of bit to read about that. And also it shows sort of an introduction to Boba Fett, and again I thought that was quite a bit of an interesting backstory. So if you've not seen this comic before or read it before, do pick it up. I was quite hooked on this actually when I started reading this, so definitely worth a read if you've not seen that one before. So many thanks for watching today. I hope you liked that video. As always, I'd love to hear your thoughts and comments below, and if you're not subscribed, please do consider subscribing. So thanks for watching today, and see you next time.
We would be honoured if you would join us.
That's true, guys. I would be honoured if you would join us. YouTube have been changing their algorithms lately to favour the more sort of corporate, bigger channels, which often have got affiliations with different companies, so consequently the smaller channels and even sometimes the not so smaller channels are being lost on YouTube. So please do hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you can stay up to date for future Star Wars content. Many thanks for watching and see you next time.